Hi, everybody. This is Neil Kaplan for Comics Online.
After all these years, I found a new body.
Matt, Rita has returned. Recruit a team of former teenagers for interviews.
What time is it?
I believe it's morphin time.
Oh, you know what? It's morphin time.
It's morphin time.
It's morphin time.
It's morphin time.
Neil, thank you for speaking with us at C2E2. Obviously, there's a lot of commotion, but we're at Saturday.
We're at C2E2. I mean, I'd be worried if you could hear me.
So you have an amazing roster of voices that you've done over the years. I wanted to focus on just a couple, if you don't mind.
Okay,
for this.
sure.
Starting off with your time with Power Rangers. You've voiced so many monsters and characters over the years. Could you just talk about your experience and anything that really resonates from your time with Power Rangers?
You know, it's, I mean, at this point, it's almost 30 years ago. And it's really interesting. I mean, that was kind of my proving grounds. That was my training grounds. It's funny, sometimes I will do fight scenes for video games or ADR, and somebody will comment, hey, you're pretty good at this. And it's like, we learned how to chase the picture. You know, we learned how to chase the fights. It was such valuable on-the-job training. The biggest things I remember are literally answering a want ad in an actor's trade paper that at the time was called Drama Log, looking for voices for Power Rangers. And I had a hard time remembering what season I started until one day I'm watching HBO, pre-Max, sorry, but they had the Power Ranger movie on. And I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, that would have been fun to work on. And then I heard my voice as an Oozman go, and I went, oh, right, that was fun to work on. And because I came out between seasons 2 and 3, and I knew it wasn't on season 1, I said, I guess I started with Power Rangers in season 2. You know, and it was quite literally like most day jobs where I earned my way up, basically. I earned my way from being henchman to villain of the week, and then finally one of the greatest heroes in Power Rangers history, Diabolico. Because anyone who's seen that season knows the Power Rangers did not defeat the big villain that season.
I personally loved Lightspeed Rescue, so that was really great and impressive season. So very different dynamics as well for the show. Yeah, and some really, really interesting storylines throughout the season. And the first time that we got the Power Rangers as adults, really. I mean, not like gray-haired adults, but you know, it was interesting. They had jobs, they had places in the real world besides being students. And I found that to be interesting. And the villain structure that year was so reminiscent of the Mafia, which ultimately is what brought Queen Banshira down. You know, was she violated that structure. You know, and I hold it in very high regard. I didn't quite love Time Force as much, but that was just because personally, I didn't love that they pitched my voice down, because it's like, I tend to try to do as much of that as I can. So it's like, well, it doesn't really, it's a computer. So, but I love the fact that I got to work with Vernon Wells, and he scared the crud out of me for about a decade or so. And then finally we did a convention together, and he said hello to me, and I melted. And Vernon is now one of my favorite people on the planet. I adore that man. Why do you think Power Rangers has endured for 30 plus years at this point?
You know, I think by changing the casts every year and by changing the theme every year, on a certain level it made it more accessible to more people. So I think it just made it easier for fans to maybe leave for a couple of years and come back, or new fans to enjoy the Zords and get involved, but it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I haven't been a part of the family since they moved everything, down to the southern hemisphere, but I try to get to Power Morphicon as often as I can. I love seeing that family. I miss Scott Page Pagater like no one's business, and so it's like when I get to see some of the other voice actors that also worked with Scott, it's like he's with us, and that means a lot. And look, Barbara Goodson's one of my favorite people on the planet, so why is I just they're old and dear friends, and fortunately some of them are still older than me, so when I see them, kind of makes me feel like I'm in my 20s again.
I've had the pleasure of speaking with so many cast and crew from all the different seasons. I've lost track of how many Power Rangers I've interviewed.
Right on.
But the through line is just the experience and the takeaways and the family dynamic that you all have, especially with the conventions and getting to see each other, that it's nice to get the gang back together.
Look, after 20 years, I finally accepted the fact that Johnny Young Bosch actually recognizes me and knows my name. Yeah. Look, it's been so, and he's another reason why I love that memory and that experience, to see him come on the show as a young actor and to see where he stands now in the voiceover community. I mean, he's maybe just shy of God status in the anime world, and for such a good guy to have grown into that and achieved that and earned it, it's been a joy,
So let's move on to another show with transforming
I did
robots.
Other things?
Well, another transforming robot show. It seems like this is an underlying theme of your career, by the way. Like, was that intentional?
So you're obviously talking about Gundam.
Well, I was going to go with Transformers next.
Oh, right.
But,
I worked on that too.
You got to be Optimus Prime.
Yes,
obviously,
that's my understanding.
How did that role come about for you?
Interestingly, it was one of two major roles that I played in my career that I did not audition for. I read for a character by the name of X-Brawn, who was a southern SUV. The southern dialect wasn't a problem. And then I thought, well, in LA, SUVs drive around Rodeo Drive. But in the South, in the American South, they go off-road. So they kick up rocks under the undercarriage. There's got to be a little texture there. So basically, it was like, howdy, ma'am, my name is X-Brawn. And I was walking out, I'll never forget this. We were at the Saban building on Wilshire Boulevard, and I look in the control room and there's a freeze frame of Optimus Prime. Now, I was not a big fan in the 80s. I was like, I'm a teenager. What is this? I don't, and I didn't get into the toys. I didn't get into the show. I knew of it. I saw the movie at one point, but I could hear Peter Cullen in my head, and I could feel it. I could feel the voice in my throat. And it's like, can I read for that? And Jamie Simone, in all of his infinite wisdom, said, nah, that's okay, we got plenty. Jamie then called me like 2 weeks later and said, the producers heard what you did and wanted to know, can you do that voice without the southern dialect? And it's like, wait, can I do a voice that I did minus a dialect that I added in? Yeah, I think I can do that. Why? Well, they think you sound like Optimus Prime. They don't have time to audition you, so we're going to record the episode, and if they like it, you'll stay on. Well, I did a show previously for Jamie where there was a technical problem with my microphone, and they ended up replacing me before the show aired. I was just a guest star on it, but I told everybody that it was going to be on. They watched this weird little show called Tenko and the Guardians of the Magic. I have to say it like that. I can't help it. And my character swims to the surface of the ocean, pulls out, because he was Tad, the seismologist. As all good seismologists would be called, Tad. And so Tad swims to the surface of the ocean, he pulls off his mask, and somebody else's voice came out. So as a result of that, I didn't tell anybody that I had booked Optimus Prime. Somehow it got leaked out, and at that point in time, I was best known for doing Hawkman on Digimon, And people were afraid they were going to get, Autobots transform and roll out.
Like you do.
Yeah, well, I was happy to surprise them. I knew what they were going to get, but it was interesting to read that on the message boards in 2001. And of course, the fact that my version of Optimus Prime was not a delivery truck, he was a fire truck. And our show premiered on Saturday morning, September 8th, 2001. 3 days later, on Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, being the voice of a fire truck was a whole different thing. And I try to support firemen's charities. I support our local fire department. And it really hit me that was the first time, no disrespect to the character, but in the previous iteration, when Optimus wasn't saving the planet, he was delivering furniture or snow peas, or, I mean, all important things to the economy, don't get me wrong. But...
Or he was a monkey.
Well, no, that was Optimus Primal.
Fair. Sorry.
I love you, Gary. Sorry. I love you, Gary. You were brilliant as Optimus Primal, but you were not Optimus Prime, you were Optimus Primal.
That's fair.
But what I was going to say is it was the first time that when Optimus Prime wasn't saving the planet, he was saving his neighborhood. So this version was a 24/7, 365, except in leap years, hero. And that, in that era, meant an awful lot to me, and it still does to this day. You know, I look back on that very, very fondly.
So we're going to go to one more series with transforming robots. Still not Gundam.
Still not Gundam?
Voltron.
What could it be? Oh,
so,
right.
The villain is Zarkon.
Yes.
So we've gotten to speak with so many of your peers from that show. It just seems like everyone had such a great time recording it. How did you get Zarkon, and how did you personify Zarkon knowing what this villain meant to so many?
Well, I literally read the specifications for it. I hadn't watched the show in the 80s. I never watched a single episode. So I love Jack Angel, miss him. He was a friend, he was an inspiration, but I wasn't aware of his performance. So the specs, from what I remember, mentioned being animalistic, and so that's what I brought to it. We dialed it down when we started recording the show. We made it less snarly and less vicious, just kind of left him as a nasty, bitter creature. But being in the room with Cree Summer and Josh Keaton and Bex, and I absolutely to this day adore Jeremy. It was just a great cast to work with. I mean, two of my favorite episodes we recorded together, Space Mall and The Feud, and just to be able to bounce off of them, was just wonderful. It was a lot of fun, and I will hold that memory very, very fondly. Personally, I loved what they did toward the end of the series, where they included the footage from the original series as the show that was based on their adventures. That was just one of my favorite meta things that I've ever seen in anything I've watched, and certainly anything I've worked on. I thought that choice was just genius. It was just wonderful fanboy service in the smartest way, as far as I'm concerned.
I've known Josh since his time on Spectacular Spider-Man. Getting to meet Bex and Tyler during San Diego Comic-Cons. Like, I've just had a wonderful time in Jeremy, and Reese. Like, I've got to talk with
Reese,
so many.
Come on.
I mean,
he's Jiminy Christmas. What a funny human. I mean, he really is, and very, very kind.
The last question is, anything you'd like to promote that you have coming up? Any events?
Sure,
anything?
but nothing I'm allowed to talk about. I'm under NDA for everything. Just, find me on TikTok, Kneecap TikTok, Instagram, Kneecap Pics, Twitter. Yes, I still call it Twitter.
It's not that other thing.
Until I get a big fat check from What's-His-Face, because I can be bought. But on Twitter, I'm Kneecap. There's kind of a theme there, people. So,
Neil, it's such a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much
thank
for your time
you.
today.
I appreciate you putting up with my shenanigans.
This guy sends the nicest birthday cards during the pandemic. I gotta give you a shout out.
Okay.
That was one of the nicest things. During the pandemic, you randomly decided to send out birthday cards to people.
What I did was I think in February had this idea that I wanted to send out because here's the deal. Let me give you the background. I stopped giving my agents stuff for Christmas because it just got lost in the hailstorm of gifts from clients. And I didn't want to give them food because it's like, please don't give me anything else that's sugar-filled. Please, not now. So I decided since my birthday's in March, I would do something in March. And I couldn't do anything that year because my agent's office was closed. So I said, I got to do something. So I put out a tweet, who would like to get a birthday card from me? And everybody who did, I sent a note to and said, what's your mailing address? So when y'all did that, I went out and bought cards, and I think I put fun stamps on them all, and I hand wrote them and hand wrote the addresses and everything, and it was a blast, and I love doing it so much that I did a version of it again this year for Awesome Con in DC, where I brought a bunch of birthday cards and wrote thank you in different languages that I looked up and cheers in different languages, and it was just but I'm glad you were part of the original group.
It made me very happy, but it was also a very stressful time for all of us, and it was just such a nice, surprise when it actually showed up. So
thank you.